At least we get retakes. With Amir, you didn't. He did one, and that was it.
Well, that's all we need. So here we are with Matt Hannon, Samurai Cop, and we're filming this just before the UK premiere of Samurai Cop 2. And we thought this is going to be the perfect opportunity to talk to you about making these films.
Yep.
Because I first screened Samurai Cop a couple of years ago, and it was one of the films that inspired me to set up the Bristol Bad Film Club. But when I introduced the film, I told everyone that you were dead.
Well, that wasn't a lie at the time.
So can you tell me why the internet thought you were dead for so long?
Yeah, and first of all, I wanted to explain, just if anybody's wondering out there for technical here, since we are at the location here at the Prince Charles Theater, if you hear any noises going on in the background, we're keeping in vein of the original Samurai Cop, where everything's not going to be perfect. So we're going to get used to it here now, and then you'll enjoy the movie. But I don't really know how that started. I just know that somebody that was following on YouTube the movie was trying to track me down, and since I had changed my name legally in '94, they kept Googling or looking for Matt Hannon, and the only thing that popped up was a carpenter that worked on the movie sets. So they thought, well, maybe that's him, but there was never a photo to go along with it. Okay. But the age was close, so they all just figured, oh, that must be him. I know somebody really went to the extent of going to the grave or the state where the actual guy was buried and tried to find his parents, which was odd. I can't imagine, and I'm sorry for the parents if that happened, but yeah, and I just realized on IMDb on the comments that they said, oh, too bad he died, and you could never ask him about why he wore the wig or why this was going on. So I just kind of sat back and thought, all right, better off everybody thinks I'm dead.
I know, because when I showed the film, firstly, everyone loved it, and then it was kind of like, tragically, it's no longer with us. And that kind of brought a bit of a downer to it. So when you posted that video online that you were actually alive, that was amazing. Why did you suddenly choose to do that, or why had you kept quiet for so long and not kind of gone, actually, I am alive?
Yeah, like I said, I kept following the comments on the IMDb, and I actually did post, if you look, there's a couple, there's one guy that I would speak with, say, hey, it's actually me, and the reason I wore the wig was blah, blah, blah. And he says, like, yeah, bullshit.
Yeah, of course you are. Well,
you know, and he's like, just post a video or hold the newspaper up and so we know it's you. And I would not do it because I was too busy working, and like 6 months or a year would go by, and my eldest daughter, Courtney, kept saying, Dad, you should just post on YouTube little 10-minute videos. I'll show you how to do it, because she's into all the tech stuff. I don't know. And just explain certain things, what went on, because I think people would be interested. And I just kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. So then I finally thought, one day I'm sitting around my place, and I thought, oh, let me put up a camera and do a test thing for Courtney, because I always used to do that even with my comedy routines. Shoot something and then send it to her and go, hey, is this funny? So I'm sitting with my shirt off and whatever, and I just quickly put up the iPhone, did the intro, sent it off to her, and then I think she felt in later conversation, she said, I didn't think you'd ever do it again. So that's why I just uploaded it right away. And so then that's actually the catalyst of why we're sitting here today, because she just said, screw it, I'm just going to put it out there. I was pissed for a while because I looked like an idiot.
Pissed off, yeah.
I mean, wears no shirt, and, hey, everybody, I'm alive. I would have put something on, she goes, yeah, that's fine. Then I would have at least dressed and did something better. But, it is what it is. Maybe it added to the nonsense of this whole carnival. But yeah, I was mad for a while. And then when my iPhone started going off with all the emails that were connected to that YouTube of fans all over the world, like, oh my God, you're alive. And they're like, this is the second coming of Christ. And I'm just like, what is everybody talking about? I didn't realize that it was that vast. I just thought it was a little small couple guys that were into, old bad action movies.
Well, the hair and the beard made it look like it was the second coming of a very well-toned Christ.
Now I grew this for the European and UK premieres, but I think that was part of the appeal for everybody. Once they saw Mark and myself somewhat still, I mean, obviously I'm more wrinkled. Mark not, black don't crack. I always joke with him about that. But we look similar, and they probably thought this would be fun to see them do something now 25 years later in a sequel. And I think that was the ball rolling in the frenzy that attracted Greg Hatanaka to want to make the sequel as a fan.
Yeah. Well, before we talk about the sequel, let's talk about the original. And before you even got cast in it, you had already had a diverse range of careers. You'd been a comedian, a bodybuilder.
No, but they say that. I mean, I
I've
always
seen pictures of you where you were stacked.
Yeah, but I mean, that was, and I may be, splitting hairs here, but bodybuilders, obviously go on stage, they take the steroids and they just get big and they're all into. I think I was more into, obviously growing up watching Stallone movies in the 80s, our genre with Schwarzenegger. I just athletically wanted to be bigger. My oldest brother always worked out, and I thought, hey, I want to start lifting weights. I was very skinny in high school, So after graduation, I just started eating and drinking beer and just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But I've weight trained for over 33 years, and it's mostly only for aesthetic looks, not for, like a bodybuilder would do.
Yeah.
I actually eat like a bodybuilder does, just very lean. But yeah, I hadn't really done any of that. And then I had just done the comedy I spoke about when I worked with Stallone as a bodyguard. Andrew Dice Clay.
You were Stallone's bodyguard. If people don't know, you were Sylvester Stallone's bodyguard for a while in the late 80s, around the Rambo era.
Yeah, when I first moved to LA, obviously I was too big. I was probably 270 pounds. And I obviously wasn't going to wait tables and knock everything over. So I got into the security field. I had some background in executive protection. And I actually went to the gym where Sly worked out, and he had just come back from filming Rambo 3. And I started talking with his bodyguards while he was in the gym working out, and they asked me if I wanted to come on board. And of course, what a honor for me. Growing up and watching his movies, now here I'm going to go work for him. So yeah, that was like 1988. I think I started with him through 91. But so I tended to just stay within the bodyguard world. But after I started working for Sly, I really learned the business. He was kind of at the pinnacle of his career. Obviously he started doing Stop or My Mom Will Shoot and Oscar and Tango and Cat, which was a good movie. But so to be around him and watch a real top level, the biggest movie star in the world, to see what movies were all about. When I got approached by Amir to do this movie, I thought, wow, he's offering me the starring role. This is great. This is going to start my career. Little did I know, but so yeah, it was very exciting, and I was very lucky to get picked from Amir for whatever reason that he liked me.
So how did that come apart? And how did you get cast? And when you were reading the script, did alarm bells start ringing, or were you kind of like, no, this is my big break, I'm going to be the next Stallone, and this is my title role?
Yeah, I did. I mean, even Sly and I talked about that. I never wanted to be, and Sly made the comment, you can do your career, obviously you're taller than I am, and there's a slight resemblance. But he said for low-budget action movies, they will play on that look, and they'll want you to do action. But if you try to do mainstream, they will come back and say, oh, you're the Stallone clone, and it'll really hurt your career. So I understood that. And I always wanted to do comedy anyway. So I wanted to be what Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is kind of now, what I thought I wanted to be back then. I used John Candy as a reference, but he wasn't into action. But I was just a big guy, and there really was nobody that huge that could speak or be funny. So I thought that's my niche, because there's a million guys with long hair and great bodies that were making low-budget movies. But so when I went in, the bodyguard that worked with me with Sly, Voyal Gorik, who was in Rambo 2, he's the big Russian that Sly fights and throws off. He said, go meet this guy, Amir Shervan. He does low-budget movies. Let him give you a small part. You can start to build a reel or a tape. So when I walked in, met him just the minute I walked in, he says, oh, you are perfect. You are the star of my new movie. And I was just like, wow. And then he said it was going to be a low-budget Lethal Weapon type movie. And I thought, okay, good action. I can do that. And that was it. Here's the script. He said, take a look. If you want to change anything, we will. And that didn't happen. And so I just left, and I think 4 days later, we started filming. Mark got cast the next day. Same thing. He walked right in, and Amir said, oh, you're the star. And Mark's like 6'5", I'm 6'3". So Amir probably just thought, oh, this is great. Two big American, guys that look like Danny Glover and Mel Gibson, I guess.
So there wasn't that much ad-libbing, because some of it feels very much like Amir Shervan, who was Iranian, has written this dialogue through Google Translate, what he thinks an American action script sounds like.
Yeah.
And then there are other scenes where you are clearly ad-libbing a little bit, such as when you're talking to Mark as he goes under the gate and you go over. I think that where he says, I'm an undercover cop.
Yeah.
I feel like that's ad-libbed, and you saying keep it warm to your girlfriend.
No, that one I have to give the credit to.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because Amir really wouldn't let us ad-lib anything. And part of the reason in the style in which Amir wrote, and Greg Hatanaka is going to release all 4 or 5 of Amir's movies. I think we were the last of his movies.
Killing American Style and Hollywood Cop.
Yeah, those. Yeah. So he digitally remastered those. But Amir took from the old Western style, hey, you, come here, like John. So he had a certain cadence in which he wrote, and even the classic son of a bitches line, which I use. I did say, here they would say, now I'm telling you sons of bitches. And he said, no, that doesn't sound right. I said, well, that's correct speak. That's how you'd say it. No, just say son of a bitches. So these are the arguments that we would have. And then after a while, we just gave in and we just kept going along. And as the days went on, we started to realize, I don't think this is ever going to be released. And that's when, and as the months grew longer for filming, I did, which was disrespectful to Amir, started goofing around more, and especially when the wig came into play. But
the wig. So, at some point, you must have thought you were done, and the film was over, and got your hair cut. At what point, or how long after did Amir call you and go, no, I need you for reshoots, and I'm going to give you this, well, clearly female wig to wear? So, what happened there?
Because we started filming June of 90, I think is what I want to say. June of 90, and then we would shoot for a week or so, then stop for 2, and then come back. So that was the way it was shot. Right around November, we had done all reshoots and everything, and Amir said, okay, we're done. I'll call you in a few months when I have the final tape, and I'll give you a copy. So I thought, all right. So then my agent at the time said, oh, you should cut your hair short now, shoot new headshots. So I did that. Then Amir called me in January of 91 and said, I need you to come to the office. So I went in, and when I walked in, he just flipped out. What have you done? You have fucked up my film. And I said, well, what are you talking about? We're done. He said, no, I have more to film. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So he just immediately threw me in his little car, and we ran up to Hollywood Boulevard to the first wig shop that he found. And he just started looking on the shelf, and he'd take it off, and he'd put it on my head and kind of flatten it and go, this is it. This will work. And I kind of felt bad, and on the other hand, I was like, dude, you said we were done. I don't think I've done anything wrong, but I wanted to help him out. And then I thought we would shoot things from a distance, running maybe. But when he started saying, all right, Matt, I want you to redo this line because we didn't do this in the restaurant. And I'm like, you got to be kidding. Or I need you to peek around the corner because you'll see me in my real hair as I come up to a corner from the medium shot, and as soon as I look, it's a wig. And then I pull back, and it's my hair. And I'm like, how am I going to show this to anybody?
The first shot we see of you is when you're at the police station, you're wearing a baseball cap, and you're just wearing a woman's wig.
Yeah, and again, I think that's because he never really filmed an opening scene, so I think that's why he thought, looking at the footage I have, we need to have you guys coming out of the police station. So that scene, actually, he stole that shot. We had no permit. He's out on the curb, and the cop that comes out and talks to Mark and I with Amir dubbing the voices, hello, how are you? Is it a real cop?
That's Amir dubbing it.
Yeah, right. And he approached us, and he says, what are you guys doing? Do you have a permit to film here? And Amir, we're with TV show Hunter around the corner. We're the second unit. The guy's like, okay. He goes, aren't you the cop that's supposed to be in the scene? He's like, no. He goes, well, you're handsome enough. How about? And Amir just sucked him right into coming over and hello, guys. So that was the beauty of it. But yeah, I had to put the wig on and a hat to try to make it not look so obvious, but it made it even worse because the hat was like this big and a poofy wig. But that's what Mark and I loved, and we just thought, this is crazy, man. And that's when we just started. I would start doing these hands, talking to the helicopter when, you should clearly
talking to the helicopter with no radio. You're just yelling up.
Because we would try to explain to him, and he didn't care, so we didn't care. So we thought, all right, she has bionic ears. But even in the fight scene with Gerald and I that took place in the winter, it started in the summer.
Oh, yeah, it moves locations.
We go through all the seasons.
Yeah.
But then when it fell on, I'm just like, what are we doing? And me and Robert Zadar in the final fight, the same thing. Cloudy day, sunshine at the beginning of the fight.
So yeah, your wig fell off, and he didn't even go, let's reshoot that, because that's in the film.
I don't think he saw it. And because he would shoot whatever he shot with whatever little film he had. Then he would go watch dailies, and then he had to just edit what he had. Almost the same like we did here with the sequel. You shoot what you can shoot, and then when you get back, because you financially can't have a video village to go review and go, oh wait, Matt's wig, do it again. It costs money. It was just, Amir was like a factory, and so it was just, let's do one take, and we're gone. That's why you had to know your lines, even though they were cracky, because he would get pissed, because he didn't have film to waste to do take after take.
Well, no, there's clearly that guerrilla sensibility. I mean, you guys were clearly strapped for time. You're doing all your own stunts and fights.
Yeah,
even though I'm right in saying you don't have any fighting.
No martial arts skill at all, no.
And you and Mark are putting out people on fire. And I assume you're doing all your stunt driving because the car chase is about 15 miles an hour and you don't want to hurt anyone. And
because part of the training that we had as bodyguards back then, what MMA is today is what we had training-wise with Sly. We all had certain judo techniques or control holds we took from each art. Obviously, everybody was a great boxer, Mike DeLuca, and everybody had grappling skills. But nobody studied traditional samurai, so I didn't have that, but I had the athletic ability and the knowledge to do what I needed to do in that capacity. And I told him here that, I go, I'm not any martial, because it doesn't matter, I will make you look good. So we're swashbuckling, Robert.
Well, he's making you look good by putting you in black Speedos a lot.
Well, that was his thing to sell overseas to the women, because he had Janice in her bikini, and he says to me, Matt, I need you to bring, and that was the first day I think I met her, bikini And I'm like, all right, whatever.
We're
They're posing
okay
trunks
in
or
some
something.
pants,
I think.
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, all right, I have an okay body. It's not a big deal. But in context, you look back nowadays, and the kids who wear board shorts are like, who wears that shit?
Indoors.
Yeah. And then everyone kept saying we were sharing pants, which is ridiculous. Mark had his own black pants, and Gerald had
Robert
his.
Zadar has his own.
Yeah, was he
no,
on
it's
the
Gerald. Gerald, who's got
Gerald?
a sex scene. He's wearing his own. Yeah.
So, but and that's just again, that's what Amir knew. He was a master at marketing these movies. He had the guns, tons of guns, and the chase scenes, the fights, and the pretty girls and the topless. So that's what he was trying to sell was the sex for the female version viewers overseas. So, and at some point you just go with it. I disagreed with the love scene between Melissa and I adamantly because I knew Melissa, who plays the horny or the helicopter.
The helicopter, yeah.
And I argued just before we went in because we shot the scene in the pool with Janice and I kissing, and I'm like, why would he be just randomly having sex? I thought he loves this girl. He's trying to build. He doesn't care about any of that thespian bullshit. He's just like, shut up. This is my film. You will do as I say. So in that scene with her, you see me stiff as a board, not fucking giving anything because I just didn't want and Melissa's into it, and I'm just on and the camera's trying to move with my hand. I'm just doing nothing. But later in the other love scene with Janice, I obviously was more in. But I mean, it was immature on my part, and also in combination with knowing this is never going to work. This is crap. But it's really not your place as an actor. You just do what they want you to do.
Yeah.
I was too self-aware, and I think that's what makes me not to be a good actor because I am so self-aware. I'm more of a comic where I control all of the content of everything. I don't have to answer to anybody. It's my own beginning, middle, and end, and I just put it out there. So here you have to do what Amir wanted, which was what he wanted us to talk lower like Stallone, frown, be like this. I wouldn't talk like that. Just do it. What does katana mean? It means Japanese sword. Just ridiculous stuff. But you do it. And again, I was thankful, and I still to this day, without Amir, I wouldn't be here. So I mean, I met with his son and told him how much I appreciated what his father did, regardless of how this all ended up, the first movie.
So what happened when you first saw the film and there's scenes like the horny nurse scene and everything? I mean, what was your reaction when you first saw it? Were you like, this is not what I signed on to do?
Well,
when you were making it, were you kind of like, I think I know what this is going to be?
No. I mean, it was serious, and I remember auditioning that girl with Amir in her office, at his office, with those lines, and I just go, it's kind of dumb. He goes, no, this is funny. And I go, yeah, do you like what you see? Yes. Do you want to touch it? It was very nothing. And she actually grabbed my crotch in the rehearsal, so I went to Amir
and
right
that's
away.
how she got the role.
That's what I said.
Yes.
I go, she's great. I think we should hire her. But, so we knew kind of what was going on, and I just thought, all right, well, I guess this is just what acting is at this beginning level. You have to take the parts that you can get. And hopefully, I was thinking when it was done, I would take pieces of good scenes, maybe visually with me with the gun, where I could show not the entire scene where hey charcoal black, all that, but just maybe some visual shots or fight scenes that you could show another casting director. Oh, he looks good on film, or he can act with his eye, But I had nothing because everything I looked at was either me, shitty actor, or just horrible lines and stuff that you couldn't show anybody.
So did you become aware that Samurai Cop got a cult following and that you had a fan base out there? Because you never really acted afterwards, and Samurai Cop took on a legend of its own. Yeah,
and because to answer the question before, I never, I saw the tape of the movie once Amir gave me a time-coded copy, and I watched it on VHS, and I just said, well, he's never going to release it because I thought it was terrible. He did sell it to one distributor at the AFM in Santa Monica, which is the American Film Market, for like $60,000 or something. I think initially his budget on the movie was $30,000. He ended up making $300,000 on it, selling it overseas in territories. I guess back then he made a lot. It was very lucrative. So Amir knew what he was doing, and hats off because he did that. But I never thought it would be released. It never was released theatrically, so I just thought it disappeared. And I think it was only till YouTube came to fruition that clips started showing up, the Hardy Nurse.
Yeah.
And then it, technology, people were able to start buying it on Amazon, and then it just slowly started building. But I had no idea it was a cult, phenomenon that it was until that actual day when I posted the video.
Because there have been rumours about a sequel, and I think Greg had planned it mainly with Mark in the lead because you were dead.
You're right.
And it was going to be Mark investigating a series of high-profile assassinations.
Yeah.
So, did you hear about that, or when you posted that you were alive, that's when Greg came to you? How did all that happen with the sequel?
I actually had on Amazon ordered the movie when that new cover came out, not the original with the holding the head, and it had commentary on there with Robert Zadar.
Yeah.
And so I watched that, and they showed clips, I think, from the screening that was done a year before in LA. And I pretty much remember trying to contact Greg Hatanaka because I saw his name with Cineridge Film to say, hey, you know, if you want to talk to me about when I'm alive, just because I thought, well, maybe that's a nice venue too. But that was at least, I don't know, a year before I even posted my video.
Mm.
So I always had these opportunities, and Greg's like, I can't believe I never responded, I never saw it. But I just think, I don't know, I guess I'd have to say once YouTube and once I posted that video, I realized what a big cult phenomenon it was, and then I just thought, and then Greg actually contacted me and said, I need to meet with you, I need to meet with you. Because originally they were thinking about doing a sequel with Mark, and Caden Cross was going to play my daughter, Joe Marshall's daughter, and they were going to try to find out who murdered me. And he was going to have cameos with all these, you know, in adult industry, you know, whatever. Greg was trying to camp it up. And I just think it really was floating out there. It wasn't really a go project until once I'm alive, then he's like, we got to go. This is perfect timing.
Because it came together really quickly.
Yeah, that's that whole ball that Greg got caught behind as a true fan of that movie. And he's a film distributor and has a great business, but he really loved Samurai Cop, and he thought, oh, I'd love to make a sequel, not knowing the fiscal pit he was falling in and the stress. I mean, you know, once you do Kickstarter and get some money and then you realize, well, that's still not even, you don't just give up.
Yeah.
So Greg never quit, and that's why I really have such admiration for him and any filmmaker nowadays to make movies. It's so expensive, and very rarely do you get your money back. A lot of us, this whole project, everybody involved in the sequel did it because they just wanted to do it for the fans because they thought this will be fun. A lot of people donated their time and so on and so forth. So with that first movie, it's something that once I came back alive, that it just made it what it is today. It's an amazing. Hopefully, I mean, I know they still want to do one more, but just a journey that just kind of gets wrapped up. Yeah, I mean,
it'd be great.
It's got to be right, though. That's why I said if we're going to do a trilogy, then we're going out with a bang. We're not going to go out with any more. And that's what we keep asking. What if we would have done the second one really good? Maybe the fans were like, no, that was good. We wanted shit. So we accidentally gave them unintentionally some of the same stuff that happened the first time that people are liking.
So how did that evolve then, the script? Because when it was first announced, I was like, oh, this is a potential minefield because the first one is funny because it's, you know, not
on purpose.
Technically great.
Yeah.
And then the second one, you can't try and replicate that because that's kind of a lightning in the bottle situation. And you go out and do a full-on parody. So how did that process evolve? I mean, what were the discussions about the tone?
Greg had talked a lot about that because there are so many factions, even of Samurai Cop fans. Some people like, for different reasons. So you're not going to be able to please everybody because they hate the technical or they think the acting and this. So we really went in trying to make a great movie. That original script, which I've asked Greg, hopefully he can put it out so they could see where we really wanted to start on day one, which was a pretty good script. And it wasn't anything to, we had little tips of the hat to the old movie that we threw in there, but nothing too much where you go, they're too self-aware.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to make a sequel to something like Samurai Cop, but somehow he pulled it off. And, you know, like I said, everybody's been enjoying what they've seen. So that's why I said with 3, I don't know. I don't even know. So many people just love it, and everyone's wanting to throw money and go, oh, if you know, we can do it here, we can do it for this, and start bringing in more A name actors, or you know. So then it's like, well, now what are we doing? Are we crossing? Are we jumping the shark? Are we?
Because he got a lot of the old gang back together, and before he tragically died, Robert Zadar was going to be in it, and then Greg landed that coup of getting Tommy Wiseau, who we're a big fan of. So
Tommy's awesome.
He's a unique character. How did that go down?
I didn't know anything about Tommy. No disrespect to him, I didn't know. But Greg, for some reason, knew about The Room, and he just thought, oh my God, this would be great if I could get Matt and Tommy together on screen. It would be like, you know, De Niro and Pacino and Heat. Finally, these two.
A worthy comparison.
Well, I know, and I even made comment because I think Tommy originally, Greg had a dinner set up where we would meet and discuss it. He was like 3 hours late, but that's Tommy, and that's Tommy World. So I go, who is this fucking guy? What do you mean he's 3 hours late? Fuck this. But when he showed up, and I was even talking to him, I go, you know, I think people just want to see you and I together, like, you know, Jordan Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson playing one-on-one, two B-rated actors. He goes, I am not the B-rated actor. I said, okay, I'm sorry. I mean,
Did you probably just turn to you and went, who are you?
well, you know, so I get, and then I kind of understood where Tommy's point of view is of what's going on. I'm very aware of what's going on, and I embrace it and I enjoy it. Like I said, I've never thought I was anything fantastic, and not to say Tommy thinks that either, but I just know where this sits as far as, and I enjoy it because I am a comic. I really have had no qualms with anybody making comments because they're all dead on anything that they've ever criticized. I agree with them. I'm not like, how dare you? I've never had more fun than the screening we had in Madrid, Spain, where they're a very boisterous crowd. I don't know if you've ever seen a movie there.
I've seen some clips of it. Yeah.
It's they yell constantly in Spanish because I couldn't understand things at the screen, and they just laugh and have. And so to me, it was probably the funnest screening I've ever seen. Even though, you know, I know it's supposed to be an action movie, whatever, but it's just the joy they have when the Lionhead shows up. The place erupts. They chant things. It's almost like what goes on at Tommy's movie. I hadn't seen The Room yet with a live audience, but so that's why I said I'm thankful to be part of something. Most people do movies, young actors, and they're never seen. Or even nowadays, they'll shoot a film and it just goes straight to video and it's done. This movie has such a following, and it's better to be part of something, even though it's crazy, versus just being forgotten. So that's why I said I'm very lucky at 50 years old to be asked to come back and do a sequel to something that was not even intentionally supposed to be where this is where I'm supposed to be. You know, I mean, it's just crazy.
So what are the chances that you and Mark are going to be back for Samurai Cop 3?
They're looking good. Like I said, Greg's already got some people interested, and the budget's a lot higher. And that's what I said. If we're going to do it, let's make sure what's on the page we can afford. And you really have to go through with a line. You know, you dissect it. We didn't do that with the second. We were all on this happy train of, yeah, we can do that. And then we get there, we can't do this. We don't have the money. And then you start to compromise your artistic integrity and change things, and then that's when you run into trouble. We didn't know if certain actors were going to show up on certain days. You're dealing with egos, and because it's a non-union thing, I'm not coming out, and the time's ticking, so it starts to cost money. So you really got to go through it, and I think it's got to have everything in the mix. I said we should do like a European vacation. Where we just go on the road, Mark and I, bumbling cops through Europe, chasing down whatever. I mean, so many other things. People want to do a Red Heat version with Jean-Claude Van Damme as the Schwarzenegger character from Europe and me. So, I mean, there's so many ideas floating around, and it's like, and I'm not getting any younger. Mark's, retired in Florida, just chilling on the beach, so.
You can take my idea to Greg, where you and Mark go back in time and kill Hitler. That's my
idea.
Well,
that's somebody who's done that, haven't they?
Kung Fury? No, but
or something.
Not green screen. You just literally go back in time somehow.
I don't know. That's why I said there's so many. That's why it was so hard for us. Like, I hope they like it because there's so many. Everybody had ideas, but we just solicit all of them. It's like anybody can write them down, and if we can get them within that $2 million budget, shoot, we'll make it. I mean, nowadays you can do a pretty good movie for that kind of money. So.
Okay. Well, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. Thanks very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Absolutely.
Cheers. All right.